29 years ago, the love of my life, a friend and a partner, went into dementia, into a world which I could not follow. I had met him in the early 70s and we were together until the mid 80s, to about 1980 in August. The person suffered, when I first met him, had just been discharged from the Army. He was diagnosed by them as in the beginning stages of schizophrenia. At that time, when I first met him, the medicines that his, let's say, a family doctor was giving him was controlling him and keeping him in this world. As the years progressed, he became less stable, and after his mother died, he just drifted away for longer and longer times into his fantasy world. It was when he reached this stage that I had tried to commit suicide, and he came home early, recognized the signs, and took me to the hospital, where after a stomach pump I was in a mental ward for about a week. When I came back home, I struggled with him for an additional maybe year, and before I just had a complete nervous breakdown. Back in the hospital I was for a week, and then I went to my parents' home in Texas, where I stayed with them for almost a month. Came back home, and again I walked in the door of my house in just uncontrollable sobs, so I took a plane to Baltimore and stayed there for an additional few weeks. When I came back, I set Billy T up with his own apartment, and then I moved to Houston, where he followed me for a few months, and then finally the landlord at the place where I was evicted both him and me as unsuitable tenants, which we really were. But it was a sad time. When he was in his prime, you couldn't have asked for a nicer person. He and I got along famously. In fact, probably we got along too good. I have always had the problem, I never could have a relationship and work at the same time. If I'm in a relationship, my work goes to crap. I'm tardy, late, take off in the middle of the day. You know, I was a terrible worker. But once he was departed, I became a very hard worker again and just threw myself into work. Billy T had a few interesting problems. His natural mother was mentally retarded. He was adopted by his aunt and uncle, and when he was in his 10, 11, 12 years old, his adopted father used to sell him to people who hung around public restrooms. I naturally didn't really believe him, but I asked his father one day, and his father's only reply was, times were tough and everyone had to contribute to the income of the family. This probably didn't help to a young kid's mental instability when all is said and done. But these are facts I learned years after I first met him. I was mesmerized him from day one, and I miss him till now. This is just a short autobiographical blog, and which is the whole purpose of my YouTube. Okay, thank you. I'll probably have more tales on this later, but this is the end for this one. And